When I think about death, I don't think about endings. I think about water, one substance, many forms. Steam is water in its gaseous state, ice is water in its solid state, and liquid is water in its most natural state. Water doesn't disappear when it changes form. Instead, it transforms. And over time, I've come to understand death the same way. When a body dies, life doesn't vanish. It shifts beyond what we can see, measure, or name. Death is not destruction. It's a transition. This is a 4-episode series that I will be sharing with you on death. Across the next 4 episodes, I want to sit with death, not as an idea, not as something distant, but as something deeply human. I'll be sharing 4 personal encounters, 4 moments where death showed up in different ways. Not because my stories are unique, but because death, loss, and grief are not strangers to any of us. We will all meet death in this lifetime. That part is guaranteed. What we struggle with is everything around it. The shock, the timing, the circumstances, the quiet questions that rises inside us and asks, why this? Why now? Or why me? We're often taught to see life and death as opposites. But they're not. They are partners. 2 teachers, 1 truth. Most of us are taught how to live, how to achieve, how to succeed, how to keep going. But very few of us are taught how to sit with death when it arrives. And yet, death is very often the first teacher that shapes who we become. For me, death arrived early, not to frighten me, but to wake something ancient inside me. It was never distant in my childhood. My father died when I was 14 years old. I lost aunts and uncles too. Loss arrived so often that it stopped feeling like an interruption. Instead, it began to feel like a pattern. And this series begins right there. Not with answers, but with presence. Not to explain death away, but to listen to what it has been trying to teach us all along. And so with this being said, let's get on with episode 1, my first encounter with death. It was late at night, around 11:30 p.m. I remember my mother's voice before I remember anything else. It was frantic, it was sharp, it was unfamiliar. She was calling out from her room. When we reached there, my dad was lying completely still. I touched his wrist, no pulse. His body was already cooling. Even now, years later, I remember the exact stillness of that moment. How time didn't rush forward or backward. It simply stopped. The ambulance came. They confirmed what I already knew. My father had died peacefully in his sleep. Later, after the house filled with voices and movement, I stepped outside onto the veranda. It began to rain. Thunder rolled across the sky, deep and low. as if the earth itself was exhaling something heavy. I stood there alone, watching the rain fall, unsure of what I really was supposed to feel. I hadn't been that close to my dad. We had a huge age gap between us. He was already ill while we were growing up. Time, the kind you think you'll always have, ran out quietly for us. And yet, standing there, something inside me shifted permanently. I didn't yet understand life. I was too young. But I understood that something sacred had just taken place. Now let me tell you about my dad. He was not gentle. He was a disciplinarian. He was firm. He was commanding. One look from him and my sister and I would fall into line. At the time, when I was growing up, I resisted that. But later, I realized the truth. He was molding me to become my own guide, my own teacher. His discipline shaped my character. Even after death, he shaped my choices. Whenever I wanted to rebel, I would catch sight of his photograph or notice something of his, maybe a personal item, and something in me would straighten up. I understood that he was not physically present, of course, but his acts of discipline in my earlier years, as I was growing up, prepared me to make the choices that weren't just easy, but were right for me. Death did not erase his impact. It concentrated it. It became self-control. It became restraint. It became an inner voice that stopped me when temptation appeared. It took me 19 years to understand his role in my life. Not to control me, not to be my comfort, but to be my anchor. Now, some parents, they teach through tenderness. Others teach through structure. Some through presence. And some through their absence. Across generations, the truth remains. Love doesn't always arrive in the form we expect, but it does arrive in the form that we need. My father didn't walk beside me into adulthood, but I always knew he stood within me. And sometimes, like for me, the greatest protection is the discipline we inherit. Death taught me this first lesson. Some people leave this world early, but their influence does not. I want you to pause for a moment. Think about someone that shaped your life. Someone who shaped you even after they were gone. And which of their lessons are still alive in you today? Because for many of us, the first teacher we meet is not life. It is death.